Stu, it's amazing to have you on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited. And I want to get right into it. You have been labeled as the father of contact marketing, and you've kind of invented that category basically. Can we start with defining contact marketing?
Sure. And I want to actually be clear. I didn't really invent contact marketing. I had to name it something in my book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, but I surely didn't invent it. In fact, the earliest example I've come up with or found so far involves Leonardo da Vinci and the Count of Milan and one of the de Medici family members. So it goes, people have been doing these wild and really interesting things to get meetings for a very long time. And I surely didn't invent that. But a lot of us do these really wild, really interesting things to get meetings. And so in writing How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, actually in researching and interviewing my sources for How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, I was always asking them, when you have to break through to someone of great importance, someone who's nearly impossible to reach, how are you doing it? And then, by the way, what is this thing called, this thing that we're doing? And no one had a name for it. And I thought, well, I have to call it something. So I called it contact marketing in the book. The American Marketing Association picked up on that and later named me the father of contact marketing because of that. So contact marketing, oh man, I'm sure we're going to be talking about a lot of these really interesting stories of things people have done to get meetings. So it'll become more apparent when I'm saying that it's not mass marketing. It's very, very targeted marketing. It could be a campaign to as little or as few as one target recipient or target contactee. So it's marked by very tightly targeted lists. And a lot of creativity and audacity, generally. It's not always the case, but we're looking for ways to create, I would say, experiences. So probably the best way to put it is experiences. Anyway, that we want people on the other side of this, on the other end of these campaigns, to be saying, well, of course, we're interrupting them. So when we do that, instead of saying, who's this? We want them saying, oh my God, who is this? This is amazing. So it's a micro-focused campaign. It involves a lot of audacity and creativity. And I would say relevance. If it's not relevant, then it's like shooting up a flare at someone and they're going to say, oh, what was that? But so it includes all of those elements. Then it's also characterized often by some really rather shocking metrics, because the response rates and ROI to contact marketing seems to be much higher than any other form of marketing. So it's marked by these really dramatic metrics. So, for example, the record for response so far in my own, just in my research among the campaigns I know about, is over 300%. That's crazy. And when I first started in direct marketing to create campaigns for the big magazine publishers here in the States, and just being involved in the direct marketing industry as a whole, of course, it's a while ago, but they were all the pundits were saying, they were saying two things: don't use humor, and they were saying 100% response rates are impossible. But here we're seeing not only 100% response rates, but beyond that. So at a 300% response rate, what that means is that whatever it is you did, whatever was sent or the marketer did or sent, was so compelling that it was shared. And by sharing it, others said, wow, I want to share as well. I mean, let me write the number down. I want to call this person as well. So because of that, the campaigns went a bit viral, and I've never seen a marketing campaign do that otherwise. So there's that. And then there is also the return on investment, or ROI. The highest that I know of came from a startup. It was a year-old startup. They created a tongue cleaner called Orabrush, and they were getting frustrated. They really wanted to break into Walmart's distribution. Not break in literally, but they wanted to break through to Walmart. And so they put a $28 Facebook ad up, and it was targeted to the Bentonville, Arkansas, the zip code, Bentonville, Arkansas, where the headquarters is, and then targeted by demographics a bit. And they were trying to reach the dental products buyer at Walmart. And eventually that's exactly what happened. So it took a circuitous route, but basically they spent $28 and ended up generating a $20 million result because of that. As you can see, these numbers can be just absolutely crazy huge. So yeah,
I love it.
That's basically it. It's very tightly targeted, not mass marketing. I would say sniper shot as opposed to scatter shot. It is marked often by deep creativity and audacity, and certainly relevance. Without those three, nothing happens. And it's marked by also by just metrics that are just off the scale as compared to other forms of marketing. Ultimately, we have a campaign that will put us in touch with virtually anyone.
You already shared some examples, but I'd love to hear from your side. What are one or two of your favorite examples, all-time favorite examples of contact marketing, whether you've done it or somebody else has done it, you've heard about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a big fan of audacity. I really love just this big risk taking to reach someone. I think those are the most interesting stories. And so there are two that come to mind real quickly. One, if you've ever seen the movie Forrest Gump, you'll remember this reference to a certain fruit company. I'm not allowed to tell the name of the company, but they referred to it as a certain fruit company. And hopefully that makes sense. It's not a fruit company; it's a tech company. So anyway, a sales rep was calling on this fruit company's engineering department. It makes no sense. But anyway, that's what he was doing with a software solution that they loved. The engineers absolutely loved it. And they said, look, this is great, but to go any further, you're going to have to connect with purchasing because we don't control budgets. So, okay, fine. So he turned around and directed his attention to the purchasing department, and they wouldn't respond to him at all. They completely shut him out. So he thought, well, fine, I'll just go around you to the CEO. And the problem was this CEO was probably the most famous CEO in the world at the time. This CEO was very difficult to reach because he was sending faxes and letters and leaving messages and calling and nothing was working. So one day a box shows up at the front counter and it has air holes drilled in it. It's a plywood box with air holes and a handwritten note. A lot of times handwritten notes are a feature of these campaigns. And the handwritten note said, "Dear," can't say his name, but I sell a software solution. I've been speaking to your engineering department. They love it. They told me to talk to purchasing. They won't talk to me. So I've been trying everything I could think of to reach you and nothing has worked. So this is my final attempt. And so if you would, open the box carefully. And in the box is a pigeon. And on the pigeon's leg is a capsule. And in the capsule, a little slip of paper. And if you'll write the name of your favorite restaurant, a date and a time, put it back in the capsule and release the pigeon, I'll meet you there. And of course, obviously the pigeon came back, or there's no story, but the pigeon came back. There was the name of a restaurant scrolled on the paper and a date and time. So they met, and the rep walked out with a $250,000 deal. So I love the audacity of that. Think about that. I mean, everything else he was doing all the right things. He was following all of the best practices, I suppose you could say, but not taking risks, just following all the best practices. Certainly he should be not resilient, but perseverant and polite. And, that's what he was doing before. Somewhat. I mean, reaching past the purchasing department, I guess, isn't really terrible. That's a risk, I suppose. But it wasn't until he said, screw it. I'm just going to go. I'm going to give this my best last try and put a pigeon on the countertop and make it so interesting that, I mean, think about this. It gave the CEO a great story to tell, right? I mean, because he's saying, and one day this pigeon shows up, and I thought, I got to know who's on the other end of this. So he did. Now, I've done that a lot with cartoons. I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. I use cartoons all the time. And it makes a lot of sense for me to send cartoons. And so I do. And I've reached presidents and prime ministers and celebrities and basically lots of CEOs and C-level folks and top decision makers. So those are great. And it gives people stories. But there is one, if you have time for it, there's one other story that is also just one of my favorites, just a great illustration of the power of audacity. If you remember the singer-songwriter Kris Kristofferson, and is his name familiar?
Can you remind me the songs that he wrote?
Saturday Morning Coming Down and Me and Bobby McGee.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like, okay. So here he was. He was a young man in the Army flying helicopters, stationed in Germany, and he was thinking, well, what's next in my life? What am I going to do when I get out? And he thought, oh man, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to move to Memphis. I'm sorry, to Nashville, somewhere in Tennessee, but to Nashville. And I'm going to meet Johnny Cash, and we're going to collaborate. We're going to be best buddies. That was his goal. So he got out, finished his tour of duty, and moved to Nashville. And very quickly, a friend of his said, "Hey, I know you want to meet Johnny Cash. I can get you backstage. So tonight, just come by at 10:30, and I'll just knock on the door, and I'll let you in, and I'll introduce you." So he did all that, and Johnny, I guess, was just about to go on stage. They were backstage. So he said, hey, Johnny, I just want to meet, or rather, I want you to meet a friend of mine. This is Chris. Turns to him and he said, hey, Chris, how you doing? And then he turned back around and walked out on stage. It's like nothing. There was absolutely nothing registering. So then Chris thought, okay, well, darn it, what else do I need to do? So he went to the studio where Johnny was recording all the time, and asked for a job. And actually, I guess he met a friend who was walking out the door. The friend said, "What are you doing?" I said, he said, "Well, I'm here to apply for a job." And he said, "Well, I just left my job as a janitor. Do you want that job?" "Sure, I'll take any job." So he took the job as a janitor. Wow. One of the things, though, when he was hired, all of the employees were told this: if you slip a tape to Johnny, a demo tape, because everyone was trying to do that, you're fired. You're just out of here quickly, right away. So he slipped them to Johnny's wife, June, instead, but it still didn't work. Nothing was happening. So he wasn't giving up. So then he was still flying helicopters for the National Guard. And so one day he thought, I've got this mission. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out to this location and then come back. I'm going to stop by Johnny's house on the way. And so he brought a demo tape with him, and he landed on Johnny's front lawn and handed out the demo tape. Now, he said it was the house manager that came out and took the tape, but Johnny had a different version of it. He said he loved telling the story all of a sudden. It was just, of Chris, this guy I've known him for years. My gosh, he's the janitor. I don't know, whatever he said. But all of a sudden, Chris shows up. He said, all of a sudden he shows up in a helicopter on my front lawn. He was stepped out carrying a beer in one hand and a demo tape in the other. And Chris was always saying, "Johnny, I can't fly that way." No, that's not how I wasn't. There's no way I would be drinking a beer while I'm flying a helicopter. They had that little bit of banter going back and forth. But that is what it took to get Johnny's attention. And I think that's really interesting because, well, Johnny met him. Now, he ran into him many times, first backstage and then many times, I'm sure, at the studio. But that wasn't enough. You have to take risks. You have to use audacity to break through to someone who everyone's trying to break through to, because otherwise you're just not noticed. You have to stand out. And a lot of people, they just, I hear from a lot of people, maybe as a result of podcast interviews or whatever it is, and they'll say, "Man, but I can't do that. I mean, that's not me. I'm not like that." Well, if you're not willing to stand out, then you're not going to break through. You have to do things that are. I just love the whole idea that that you just have to take big risks, and when you do that, I mean, sometimes it may not pay off, but what's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to meet after all. So I think it makes all the difference in the world to give yourself permission to have some fun, be mischievous, really be audacious and clever. I mean, really think it through. So if you're doing that, gosh, it's just a lot of fun. Makes it a lot of fun to sell and to be in business and really just to be alive, because if we can't get meetings, we can't sell, and we all sell. I mean, that's what we do all day long. So whether we have the word sales in our title or not, that's what we're doing.
Earlier, you said you have to be relevant. And if you're not, it would be like shooting up a flare. And people will go, "What was that?" And then they will move on.
Yeah, you got their attention.
Have there been situations? Yeah, you got their attention, but it really didn't have the impact that you wanted it to have.
Yeah.
Have there been situations where you have ran a program and it just didn't land the way you wanted it to land? It just didn't work.
I'm just trying to think. I'm sure. I mean, I guess the worst that happens is the person doesn't respond to you, and you probably won't know much more about it. Now, I do know of one attempt that someone made. Somehow I don't know where they found this. It's like they found something in a joke shop, but it was an ear. So but it made of foam rubber and I guess sort of flesh colored foam. And they said, how did they sent it in an envelope and said something like, I'd love to get your ear for a moment. And the person on the receiving end said, this is creepy, and posted about it. So that might be the worst of it, is that then they complain about it. But I'm also of the opinion that if you get someone responding in any form, that's the start of a conversation, potentially anyway. It's the start of a conversation. So you could be responding and say, oh, I'm sorry. Then I was trying to see if I could send a nose instead, but couldn't find one. I don't know. Just turn it into a joke somehow. And if you don't want me to send an ear, what would you like me to send? I don't know what it is, but just something. Just have fun with it and open up a conversation, because that's really what we're trying to do. We're just trying to break through.
Tell me a little bit about you. You are working on a new product.
I'm working on a few things, but are you talking about the window?
Yes.
Or the AI project? Or I've got two.
No, I'm
really
talking about the
projects.
window. I don't know about hold on. I don't know about this AI project. I want to hear what I can hear, or what you can share.
Well, I guess what I can share right now is just that I think AI is amazing. We should all be thinking that, I guess. I certainly think so. But I think the one thing I would, actually, if you mention AI to people just in the general population, most of them are going to say, oh, that's scary stuff. I mean, the scams that people are going to use it for and all that. And I'm thinking, God, you realize what it's allowing us to do, what it's enabling us to do. It's incredible. It's miraculous. And one of the things that I've just been fascinated with is I want to replicate myself as an AI, and then have thought through, well, what is that? What would that? Not what would it look like? It would look like this, I guess, but not much different anyway. But what would it look like in terms of functionality? And as I've been working on developing the AI Stu persona, there's a big talent agency, Hollywood talent agency here called CAA, or Creative Artists Agency, and I started picking up on some of the stories that I was reading. In their work to develop AI digital personas to license on behalf of their mainly movie star clients. So it makes sense. I don't know if Tom Cruise is one of their clients, but it's likely he is. So an AI Tom Cruise, what would that be useful for? It certainly would be useful in movies, I suppose. If he didn't have to act, they'd just do it. They just add him somehow. Or you could talk to him real time. I mean, that's better. You could talk to him real time, full screen, and maybe it's anyway. So that's interesting. But I'm thinking, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious to choose someone like Tom Cruise because everyone knows him. He's a movie star. So that's just sort of, perhaps it's engaging because of that. But the more I thought about it, I thought, well, yeah, but he doesn't have anything on the back end. There's no IP tied to him, and so, but there's certainly a lot of IP tied to me and to my books, to the books about getting meetings. So AI Stu is a concept in which it's sort of like half me, or let's say half Max Headroom and half the guy who wrote How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. So we'll make it entertaining and realist, sort of realistic to talk to, real time 3D animation. We'll make it compelling, not easily done, but certainly we will do that. But the thing that made a lot of sense is that, if this became the UI of one of the big, let's say, CRM platforms, so you could come in and just talk to this AI persona, and it was just like a Sherpa would carry you up or help you go up the mountain. It would help you climb the mountain on the site. What is it you want to do? How can I help you? Or sort of like, they're just like you're talking to your regular person at I don't know, HubSpot, and saying, hey, so today, Stu, I want to find out. There are 10 people that I know I haven't followed up on. Who do I need to follow up on? Tell me that, Stu. Then I'll do it. And then also, I wanted to develop a list of. I want to start breaking into this industry or in this industry in Texas. Let's say, I don't know. Could you come up with a list for me? Sure. Tell me your ICP. Well, like what's your ideal customer profile? What kind of buyer intent signals are you looking for? What kind of trigger events make sense? How's your brand strength? Are these people likely to recognize your brand? So if they aren't, then we add steps into that. But basically, it'll develop a list of, let's say, a top 100 list weighted by not only fitting the ICP, but they're already looking for what you're selling, as evidenced by buyer intent signals. And perhaps they've gone through whatever trigger events you might identify as being relevant. Maybe they've only been on the job for 6 months. They switched from another company to this job, and they're they're establishing themselves, maybe something like that. And then once it's approved, well, AI Stu would just go get you the damn meetings. That's it. It would just go do it for you. And there are all kinds of things the AI could do, right, to make that happen. And certainly we can do things that don't look like they're coming from an AI. We wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want to give that impression. A lot of very humanistic sort of things that are triggered by the AI, and then it follows up like it's your assistant, and it just gets you meetings. The next thing you know, you just have meetings with people on that list. So that's what I'm pitching. And that'll, oh my
That's
God, that'll be
interesting.
amazing.
That's interesting because, when you speak to people who are in this, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the right statement is, but in the same space as yourself, where they have a very unique human skill that it's very hard to replicate. And when you ask them about AI, usually the response is, well, AI can't do this. That's that it will never be able to do this one. But it sounds like you're leaning heavily into the
Yeah, I
change
want
that
to
is
mix the
coming.
two.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I want to mix the two. But I think there's huge value in mixing the two. So, I mean, again, I'm a cartoonist. I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. I mean, when I look at what AI comes up with for cartoons, they're not, they're nowhere near what we can do. But that will change. I'm sure it'll change. But if I was like, I want to get a hold of you and I wanted to just, I don't know, maybe I wanted to impress you, I might send you a card, one of my cartoons about you. So the cartoon's about you, but with a handwritten note, and I'll hand address it, put a stamp on it. And it will, it doesn't look like it was done by a machine, because it wasn't, but it's very easily replicable by machine. And so those kinds of touches are easy to include in this, I don't know what to call it, this mechanism. And the thing is that the thing that it has that I don't is all of this visibility of all of this data out there. So, we know how it works. We're using ChatGPT to do all kinds of things, and many other platforms now too, but to do not just writing copy, but also research and insights. And so it's already amazing. It's already just absolutely amazing. So the combination of the two, I think, makes me, let's say, it becomes like a version of me that's 1,000 times better than me, and a million times, or I should say, at 1,000,000 times the scale. I just find that's fascinating, and I want to be part of it. I want to do it, and it just makes sense. Again, it's me versus Tom Cruise. I know then I would lose, really, but me versus Tom Cruise in terms of creating a useful AI persona. I don't think there's any contest, because Tom does movies. I wrote books about things that help salespeople break through, and when they break through, when they get the meetings, they start selling more. And so it's a very, very useful IP set on the back end that really differentiates it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know the pitches are just going out now.
You touched on research here, that the AI can do a lot more research, but you also said something at the beginning of our chat where contact marketing goes back to Renaissance, and at least that's the first example of it that you can find. I'm very curious of what is the example from the Medici family or Da Vinci that you came across that you kind of label as contact marketing. Do you remember what that was?
It is contact marketing. It's because the mission was, the setup was that this De Medici family member reached out to Leonardo. They were patrons of Leonardo's, and he said, I want you to come up with something that I can give as a gift to the Count of Milan, so that I can introduce myself to him. So that is precisely contact marketing. And what Leonardo came up with was the horsehead lyre. You can look it up. It's actually, there are photographs of it. And imagine if you're the CEO of a company and someone wants to reach you and they send you something that Leonardo made. Wow, that would be amazing. But that's the earliest example. I know it has to go certainly it's older than that, but that's the earliest example I've found.
I love that. It's a horsehead lyre. That's what I'm searching for?
Lyre, not LAIR, not the liar, but
I'm gonna check this out. We'll put the link in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming back to the topic of AI, What are your thoughts about the sweet spot, right? Where is that sweet spot between kind of the AI and the human creativity, at least today? If you are, I don't know if you are kind of leveraging it in what you do day to day. AI is being leveraged because I know you mentioned, as for example, in cartoons, it's definitely not there. What is the balance that you're seeing working today?
Well, I was thinking, I mean, well, you know that that How to Get a Meeting with Anyone just re-released as an unupdated edition. So last month on the 3rd. And the thing that drove me to write that update was, well, for one, time had gone by, but the original came out in 2016. And so things have changed. I mean, there was COVID, and then everyone was working from home. So where do you send? Before that, you could send things to someone's office. It was pretty easy to get through. At least able to. It was pretty easy, I should say, to get something through to them. But now they're working from home. Should you send it to their home address? How do you find their home address? If you do, what's the reaction? How does the reaction change? Because you send it to their home instead of their office. And then I guess just as a result of everyone working from home, it seemed like it went hand in glove that digital spam went way up. I mean, it really, really got bad. So emails, of course, just got worse. But then here we don't even answer the phones. I don't know if you do in Australia, but we don't even answer them anymore because it's so much more likely to be junk than anything else. So this peak spam, I would say also on LinkedIn, a lot of spam. I mean, just really silly, poorly done DMs they're not personalized. There's no excuse. They should use AI to figure out what's going on with each person and reference something that's actually happening in their lives. It would be so easy to do, but all they're doing is sending out these DMs that say, "Hey, I noticed that we have people in common in our connections, and I thought I just wanted to
We're in the same
reach out to
industry.
you because you seem interesting, and I'd love to find out about what you do." Read my profile. Read anybody's profile, if that's what you want to do. Come on. But so all of those things were coming about, but the big one was AI, and that really goes to your question. I just think that just underlying all of what I did with the book, with the update to the book, is the belief that AI is amazing, or it allows us as sellers to do and entrepreneurs to do things we've never been able to do before. We've been able to pick up signals that we've never seen before, and that's incredibly valuable. All of that's invaluable. So at the same time, we're out to create human to human connections. So you don't do that by machine. Well, or let's say the machinery, the programming's got to be really, really amazing to do it. But basically, you don't do that by machine. You do that by reaching out to people in ways that I suppose humanize you in their eyes. Again, when you're reaching out to anyone, you're interrupting them. They were doing something else. They weren't waiting for you to reach out to them. So it's inevitably an interruption. When you create that interruption, you really want it to change from "who's this? What's this?" to "oh my God, who is that? We got to meet this bird. Who is this? We got to get him on the phone." So I think we do that by doing things that are uniquely human, I suppose. I mean, and cartooning is certainly one of them. But I work with a good friend, Dale Dupree, who also has some. I mean, there are a lot of just great people out that are using their wits in just wonderful ways, and certainly Dale does that too. And he sends things like empty donut they're empty donut boxes, but you could see there's the oil stains and the little sprinkles and so on in the box. So it's obvious that they emptied the box. There were donuts in there, and then there's a note that and there's a note that he attaches to say, "Well, I was waiting for the RFP to come by through, and I wanted to celebrate with you with the donuts, but it was taking so long for it to come through. I've eaten them all." Basically, it was, what are we waiting for? So that's pretty cool. And then the cartoons do a wonderful job of delivering basically any message and doing it in a very, I don't know, just it's non-threatening. So even if you're reaching out to someone who's, I don't know, let's say who's also delaying you, I have one of the cartoons in my image bank it shows this butterfly seated at a desk. And he's on the phone and he's saying, "Don't put me on hold, Bob," or Bob meaning being the person I'm sending it to, let's say, "But don't put me on hold, Bob. I only have a 2-week lifespan." And it's a beautiful cartoon. It shows through the window in the envelope beautifully. I mean, visually, it's just stunning, but the message is really funny. I guess another way to put this is it's a pattern interrupt. People use that expression a lot, and it does interrupt the pattern. Instead of not returning the call or not getting in touch or continuing to delay because you were waiting for something to happen before you reached out. Well, now this has interrupted all that. And it's so compelling. You just the person picks up the phone and gets in touch. So it's those kinds of touches, though, that are, I think, just still uniquely human, that cause the people on the other end to say, okay, I don't know this person, but I think I need to get to know them.
Talking about uniquely human touches, one of the things that I've read about you is that you met your wife through quote unquote contact marketing.
I suppose.
Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, well, let's see. I'm trying to think of where I would like to start. But anyway, I guess as a young man, I discovered that I was really fascinated with those beautiful blonde Scandinavian women. And I was growing up in Massachusetts, and I thought, well, if I stay here, I'm not going to meet anyone like that. There's no one here like that. I'm going to have to go to one of those countries and just spend a couple of months and kind of find someone and bring someone home, kind of thing. But just look around and meet people and bring someone home. I thought, man, what a great adventure that would be an incredible adventure. Well, that was in high school, but then fast forward a dozen years or so, and now I have my agency. I'm working with all the big magazine publishers in New York. My office was in Beverly Hills. Things were going great. And I thought, what's next? I know. I want to make a film about that fantasy I've had for all these years. So I hired the screenwriter. I was introduced to the screenwriter who wrote the original Pink Panther screenplay. And he and I paid him to do a story treatment with me. And we came up with it. And I didn't quite like his story treatment. But meanwhile, I thought, okay, well, I got to go to this place and just see if I imagined this accurately or not. I don't know. It's sort of like I was a young guy influenced by James Bond and Playboy, I suppose, and ABBA and so on. Like, did I imagine this properly or not, or accurately or not? And so I booked a trip to Europe, including Stockholm. And that was where I was going to take my video camera and get footage of the place and the people and see if I can interview maybe some actresses or something, but it gets something on tape. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I've got to get that. I've got to go there and figure this out, find out for myself, but also get some video that I can splice together, can put together and use it as a promotional tool to bring the film forward. And I never did end up making the film, but I was certainly going through the steps that I thought I needed to go through then. So, then about a month before I was set to leave, I saw this picture in a magazine and I just said, oh my God, if I was going on this fantasy for real, this is the girl I would bring home. And so, well, she's my wife now. So I reached out to the magazine. I'm sort of flipping all the pages forward. But I wrote to the magazine. I said, look, I have a film project. This is what I'm doing. I'm heading to Europe. I'm heading to Stockholm. If she has an agent or someone I can talk to, that would be great. Could you make an introduction? And they wrote back. And it's kind of to my surprise, they wrote back and said, well, her photographer's name and number is, sorry, she lives in Copenhagen. We don't know if she speaks a word of English. Her photographer's name and number is this. And good luck. So I reached out to him right away and arranged first an introduction. He said, well, let me reach out to her and just ask her, because I said I'd like to interview her. And he said, okay. So he got back and if you come to Copenhagen, she was not going to come to Stockholm to meet you, but change your booking, come to Copenhagen. I have some other models you should meet. And here's her, she's waiting for your call. Here's her phone number. And so it sort of went on from there. We met, I interviewed her. I asked her to show me around Copenhagen that day. And so we spent the day together just roaming around. Well, she was showing me around Copenhagen and it was the most amazing day of my life, really. And of course we didn't get married because of that day. Well, I guess we did actually ultimately, but we didn't get married that day. It just took a while, but that's how I met my wife.
Ask for that meeting.
And
that was it. And it will happen.
I guess I had a film project in mind, so that certainly that was, I had a mission that made sense, and so I think without that it wouldn't have happened. Like just, hey, there's a guy from LA who would like to meet you. It doesn't sound right at all. Like I'm sure they wouldn't do that. But if you have a project in mind, and I guess that does make a big difference. I mean, when you reach out to someone, you have to have a good reason for reaching out. And I would say a good reason for them to invest time in it, just to say, well, sure, okay, I'll I'll kind of divert my schedule a little bit so that this could happen. I guess it's just like when Kris Kristofferson reached out finally. I mean, dropped off the demo tape for Johnny Cash. It took that gave Johnny a reason to say, okay, okay, I got to give this guy a chance. And I think that's humanizing ourselves. That's like Johnny. Well, yeah. I mean, Kris is the kind of guy who would fly a helicopter and land it on my front lawn and hand off a demo tape. I love this guy. I'm sure that's what Johnny was thinking, and that's what we have to engender in all of these outreaches.
Stu, if somebody is thinking of starting with contact marketing, right? They haven't done it before. What's your advice? Where do you think they should start?
Well, just not so selflessly, I think you should start by reading my books on it, because I've done all the research for you. So How to Get a Meeting with Anyone is the original one. It's now a new updated edition. And then Get the Meeting is a second one. When the first book came out, I heard from a lot of people who said, I read your book, and then here's what happened. And they'll tell me these crazy stories of how suddenly their pipeline exploded, and it was and in a good way, with a lot more business. One company was founded because of, a big one was founded because of the book. The founder read the book and then just said, okay, that's what I'm doing. And a lot of people were saying, a lot of readers were saying, I enjoyed the book, but I wish there were pictures. I wish there were I wanted to look at some, I wanted to see some of these campaigns. So Get the Meeting then was the follow-on, and includes even more ideas and more tactics for breaking through, and kind of really explores the wild outer boundaries of it. But I think the two books together really serve well to give anyone a whole lot of ideas to formulate their own. And I don't mean like, okay, Dan Waldschmidt sends swords, so I should send swords. But Dan Waldschmidt uses swords as a visual metaphor to represent the value he proposes to bring to the CEOs that he serves as a turnaround specialist. That's what I'm saying. You should apply that same logic to what you do and who you're reaching out to and the solution you bring, and come up with things that actually absolutely fit, so that it's almost a can't miss. And by the way, I just mentioned Dan Waldschmidt and his sword campaign. That's producing 100% response rate. So that's what you need to do. So but I will say also, though, there are some interesting stories in there about how people used, let's say, profile scrapes. So they created a dossier on the person that they wanted to reach and found something of personal interest, and then fashioned a gift based on that personal interest. I think that's probably the quickest, easiest way to get started, other than reading the books, of course, is to do some research on the person you're trying to reach. Find some personal marker, something that they're really, really interested in. Maybe they're talking, whatever it is they're talking about right now would be a great thing to do. If they have a book out, I don't know, maybe something related to the book. Or, I certainly heard one interesting example of someone who was doing research on someone, and they discovered that person really very, very interested in antique guitars. And so he found a used book, out of print book on antique guitars on eBay, and sent that to him to this person with a note saying that, I was doing research because I wanted to reach out to you. I would love to connect with you, but I discovered that you're really interested in antique guitars, and I found this out of print book on antique guitars. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope maybe it earns me a few minutes of your time. And I think that would be a great way to do it. We call that deep personalization. Each campaign is different because you're going to fashion different gifts based on what you discover. But that's probably a great way to do it. A great way to get started.
Stu, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Sure.
This has been an awesome conversation. And
sure,
I took a lot of notes of stuff that I need to look up after this. But thanks for your time, Stu.
Oh, very welcome. And thanks for having me on.